This is 16 to 1, a podcast about education, teaching, and learning.
Hey, what are we drinking this week?
This episode is brought to you by Coors Light, born in the Rockies.
Not an official sponsor.
But should be of my life.
Not affiliated in any official way.
But please call me Coors if you want to.
Isn't it Miller Coors? Isn't that the name of the company? For real.
Well, his name is Adolf Coors. But
Listen, Adolf Coors.
Well, he's deceased.
Listen, long deceased Adolf Coors.
The Coors family.
If you're listening from beyond the grave, what? So what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about phys ed, my favorite class in all of school. Gym.
Physical education.
I'm so excited.
It is the class that I partook of the least.
And it's the one I couldn't get enough of.
You can tell from looking at me that I am not very physically educated.
Well, by looking at me, you wouldn't think that I was, but I actually love it.
Really, I'm going to struggle with this one a little bit because physical education was the thing that made me feel like I had no friends in middle school. So we're going to go deep.
Well, you are a pile of limbs.
We're going to go deep into my psyche and figure out why I am the messed up way that I am.
You're blaming it all on gym class?
All of it's gym's fault.
Oh, God.
Not in elementary school, though. It was really middle school gym that messed me up for good. So, let's take it away. Physical education through the ages. Part 1. Everything old is new again. Why are you laughing at me?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, listen.
This entire section of the research was not my forte.
It should have become apparent by now that I like to go on a trivia fact-finding mission for every subject that we do, and I delve deep into the history of the thing that we're talking about. We're going to start with the Greek influence on modern physical education in America because it's, considered to be the progenitor of modern PE programs in schools in the U.S. We should play the Greek national anthem right now, just in case.
Should I stand?
No.
Why don't you sing it for us?
I have no idea how to do that. Let's go all the way back to Homer. Homer writes some poems that you may have heard of called the Iliad and the Odyssey. And in the Iliad, there's this big hubbub in the form of funeral games for Patroclus that take place because Achilles has a crush on him and wants to celebrate his death by intense physical competition.
As one does.
All you Greek boys, take off your shirts, rub yourselves in oil, and let's wrestle. And also throw spears, I think. I read this in freshman year in college. It's been a while.
That's the part you clung to?
I mean, what can I say? I love me a good spear throwing competition. So, yeah. Fast forward a few centuries, we go to Plato's Republic. Seminal text on education and politics. Plato is like, hey, we're going to put these people called the guardians in charge of the city. And, whether or not they're the most savvy, the smartest, the politically astute, well, let's not worry about that. But they do need education in music and athletics. They need physical education. He says that because we have to temper these overlords so that they stay benevolent and don't follow their natural tendency to want to lord over people.
I respect it. We could use some of that today. It's just like Hunger Games. Oh, you haven't watched it.
I know the premise of Hunger Games.
Okay.
It would be fun if we made our political leaders participate in Hunger Games.
In my head, that's horrible.
I mean,
I'm here for it.
It's kind of the concept, though. It's just like the concept is that our rulers should be physically as well as mentally fit and capable, and that just guardians need to keep themselves in check by punching it out.
The picture of the American political system.
Absolutely. All right. That's enough of that.
Okay.
Everyone's heard of
We'll skip that.
Yeah, we'll skip whatever that path was we were going to go down. We're going to skip it. The next big bit here is the Olympic Games. Everyone's heard of the Olympic Games, we hope. First Olympics traditionally dates to 776 BC. Pentathlon, running, jumping, discus throw, wrestling, boxing, equestrian events. Really, it's about the foot race and the javelin.
Sure.
And don't forget wrestling, because hot, sweaty dudes without shirts on. Okay. I'm not saying that because I'm into that. I'm saying that
This is
because
going a weird direction.
I'm saying that because Greek authors are really into
I was
that.
researching Michelle Obama, and you were researching hot, oiled Olympic dudes.
No.
Is that why you chose this?
I'm mentioning that because that's what Achilles really likes.
Okay. All right.
Achilles is into
Next
that.
time, I'm gonna pick what I research.
All right, so there's a kind of link between this ancient concept of physical education and celebrating the physical aspects of people and sort of survival or militarism. So that's going to continue a little bit into the modern strain of education. Jumping ahead, according to Wikipedia, the father of modern physical education, as we know it, was this guy named Friedrich Ludwig Jahn. During the 1800s, this guy established gymnastic schools for children in Germany, and he was a very fervent German nationalist. He believed the best kind of society was one that had established standards of physical strength and abilities. And this sort of German influence on physical education continues into this trend, and then it later becomes a movement called the Turner movement. It's this thing that thrived in the 19th, early 20th centuries in America. Turners are members of German-American gymnastic clubs that promoted German culture, physical culture, liberal politics, and supported the Union War effort during the American Civil War. Turner movement in Germany was generally liberal in nature. Many Turners took part in the Revolution of 1848. After that was defeated, the movement was suppressed, and Turners left Germany, some emigrating to the United States, especially to the Ohio Valley region.
It's really common.
Very close to home.
That's exactly what happens after World
leaving
War
Germany
II as well.
And coming to Ohio Valley region.
Well, Cincinnati was a major international airport.
A lot
So
of
that's
German
why so many
influx.
displaced Jews ended up in this area, thankfully for us, that we have, such great opportunities. But that's common 100 years later as well.
Interesting. Yeah, well, Ohio Valley region is close to home for us and many of our listeners. So anyway, these guys, the Turners, also some of them are 48ers, the Revolution of 48, these guys are known as 48ers. They went on to become Union soldiers. Some become Republican politicians. So besides serving as physical education, social, political, and cultural organizations for German immigrants, Turners were also active in public education and the labor movements, which is how we kind of naturally segue into the presence of physical education advocacy in the school program. John Dewey was another guy who promoted progressive education ideas, but also this notion of physical education being important. Educational psychologists tend to support his focus on activity and learning and his suggestion that children playing can be recognized as an important aspect of development and their education. Then we get to Dwight Eisenhower, who picks up the mantle, starts to seriously consider a nationwide physical fitness program. His President's Council on Youth Fitness never fully materialized, but it kind of got passed on to John F. Kennedy to introduce this idea to public schools and to adopt physical fitness programs.
So was the Eisenhower one kind of based on the belief that soldiers weren't as fit as they should have been?
Yeah, you were researching about that a little bit. It sounds like a thing Eisenhower would suggest.
It's very Eisenhower of him.
It is. It's a very Eisenhower-y thing to say.
It is. But I mean that's part of the reason they were like, hey, our soldiers aren't really quite physically what we would hope for.
Guys, we should do something about this.
Cue Mulan music here.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to jump ahead a bunch. 2017, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they recommend that students have at least 60 minutes of physical activity each day. And they found that just over 1/5 of 6 to 19-year-old children reach this exercise goal on a daily basis.
I don't reach that exercise goal on a daily basis.
You're not 6 to 19, so we're good.
I'm not, but I feel like it's important for me
No,
too.
I don't disagree, but yes. What we do know, though, is that this percentage suffers even worse in lower income schools because they're less likely to have a PE teacher. And so the PE time just falls back on teachers to kind of fill in where they have the room and the time and, materials, that kind of stuff. They also normally offer less after school programs and activities. And so they usually also lack then obviously the physical facilities like a playground, the gym, and anything else that kind of helps support that program. So not only are these lower economic areas already suffering enough, but then on top of that, one of the things that's proven to help, especially young students, succeed, they're not given that either.
Mm-hmm. Kind of goes back to that Dewey principle of physical activity being important for development.
Yeah, it does. And the CDC has released a lot of really great information on this, and that's where I got most of this little section. So physical education involvement is the only factor that lowers rates of obesity, and that lower income students who exercise exclusively by walking to school are actually heavier because they're more likely to purchase unhealthy snacks along the route, which I thought was really interesting because in my head, we should be supporting kids in walking to school because it's not as common anymore. But the CDC is kind of saying, like, that's probably not in their best interest.
It's a nice theory, but here's what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. So the CDC also says, obviously, that phys ed boosts school performance. California Department of Ed found that children who were fit scored twice as well on academic tests, a trend that also proved true when the department tested in lower income bracket schools. And so they believe this could be due to the fact that memory, concentration, classroom cooperation, and comprehension have all been shown to improve among those that are physically active.
Interesting. This kind of brings up the question that we were talking about with music education as to whether that's causal or correlative, that relationship, or the kids who are, I mean, it does say it's even testing the same way in lower income bracket schools, but it makes you wonder whether the students who are in that population in any of those schools.
Well, I think actually kind of what you're talking about is this next bit that they shared, which was that low income urban school students also experience higher levels of stress, which correlate obviously with their ability to learn. I mean, if you're suffering from anxiety, depression, any sort of regular stress, it affects you on every level. But by pumping endorphins to the brain, improving mood, their physical education plays a valuable role in helping these students kind of forget those troubles briefly, and that will actually sort of, oftentimes lead to helping them focus in class. But I think that could be said also for music and things like that. It is a release. So it's not surprising in that correlation, I suppose, is like what you were just talking about. Nearly half of school administrators reported cutting significant time from phys ed and recess to increase time spent in reading and mathematics since the passage of your favorite
No Child Left Behind.
You're right, Chelsea. Way to go. Ding, 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 ding.
Some children are, in fact, left behind by No Child Left Behind.
On the playground. So...
On the playground, in music classes, in arts classes.
Everywhere.
Any children in those places, they're left behind.
I basically just hopped out your soapbox there, didn't I?
I mean, you sure did, but that's all right. I'm happy to share it with you. No Child Left Behind. Very problematic, folks.
So one of the things that have come of this lack, right, of physical education around the United States specifically, their CDC's trying to recommend that, if you can't hire a PE teacher, that you should strive to offer appropriate supervised recess. And so the recommended 60 minutes of physical activity each day does not have to come from PE class, but it can come from other places. And so they have promoted what's called SHAPE, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But basically their expectation is that if the school can't provide it, that falls on the teacher, which is hard for me.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, teachers are expected to fill in all of the gaps that society creates.
And as of 2017, I didn't cross-check this data, but only 8 states have policies surrounding daily recess time. So in many cases, it's just kind of left up to...
Yeah, that's one of the things that I found in my research about this subject was that it's... and again, we kind of covered this with how states are implementing Common Core objectives, for example, but it's very much on a state-to-state basis. I don't think there's anything about physical education in the Common Core standards, is there?
Not that I can think of, unless it's early on. It's not like 712 banded that I can think of.
All right. So the Common Core really pertains
I could be mistaken, let me be honest, but I don't.
As far as we know, Common Core really only covers academic standards and excludes the idea of physical education being an important part of a well-rounded education, which really is to the detriment of students in a lot of places because it's very hard to... A lot of states have guidelines about physical education and physical activity during the school day, but the way they're implemented, the way it's monitored, the way students can or should participate in those things, it's all kind of a hodgepodge, and it's hard to track and report on the effectiveness of all kinds of stuff having to do with physical education for the same reason.
So one of the things the CDC had recommended was SHAPE, which is the Society of Health and Physical Educators. They have done over $600,000 in funding, and they've awarded through this SHAPE American Research Grant Program since 1997. And the program is administered through the Research Council and is designed to fund member projects. And so if you are a teacher, phys ed, whatever, that needs funding, you can get up to $1,500 total per year with using them. So it seems that there is an attempt to try to bridge this gap and to try to encourage this, but it's still putting a lot of pressure on schools and teachers and things like that to have to seek out the resources that they need, which are proven to be, helpful and beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
So something else that happened in 2015 was the Every Student Succeeds Act, which received bipartisan support when it was signed.
Right, yeah, we talked about that with a music education episode that includes music in a definition of a well-rounded education. So it also has something to say about physical education.
Yeah, so it is trying to fund to ensure, or grant funds, to ensure phys ed is a key offering, and so that it's more accessible for American public schools. And it hadn't been guaranteed really before this. So they attempted, to kind of protect this as an offering and valuing it. But it's still, it's not perfect, obviously. But as part of that law, phys ed is considered a necessary puzzle piece and a well-rounded educational experience. So these school districts can apply for Title I funding through the local education agency plans. And so public schools where at least 40% of the student population comes from a low-income background are also eligible for school-wide funding. So that's kind of built to help them get the funds at an easier rate than, those of...
So is this budgeting for phys ed teachers and equipment?
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of been line itemed that way to ensure that it's being used for this kind of thing. And so in 2016, as part of this, the Shape of the Nation report says that the median physical education budget for American schools is $764 per school year, and that 60% of phys ed teachers receive a budget of $1,000 or less.
Wow.
And I remember being in elementary school and doing like fundraising for the gym teacher to like help buy supplies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going on, in the, early mid 90s.
Yeah.
So, and I know that's obviously before this, but even still.
Gym, like music and arts education, is sometimes seen as this kind of nice add-on that's not really necessary. So we see time and again teachers who are in these sort of outside of core academic subject areas having to do their own fighting for funding.
Yeah, it's a common story, unfortunately, for a lot of these types of teachers, which I really hate, because they're some of the most critical as far as development and, things like that for kids.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the recent Michelle Obama Let's Move type stuff.
So Michelle Obama announced February 9th, 2010, this initiative called Let's Move. Basically,
this is before the Every Student Succeeds Act.
Yeah, so it kind of led into it a little bit, but also going on just prior to that, and I'm going to talk about it briefly too, is the NFL Move program, which is called Play 60, and it actually started in 2007. So we do see some, big pushers trying to come around and support this notion and bring awareness to it. So Michelle Obama, under obviously her husband, President Barack Obama, he signed a presidential memorandum creating the first ever task force on childhood obesity to conduct a review of every single program and policy relating to child nutrition and physical activity, and to develop a national action plan to maximize federal resources and set concrete benchmarks towards her goal. So when President Obama took office, that kind of encouraged and allowed Michelle to take a stance and to kind of use her time for good. And so one of the things that she really focused on was this nutrition, activity, all of this kind of stuff.
This has, if I'm recalling correctly, she redefined that thing that we learned about in elementary school, the food pyramid.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about it.
Right?
Yeah, she really rebranded a lot of the school lunches, which is kind of funny still today. We'll talk about it.
For some reason, that really disturbed people that she got rid of the pyramid.
It really did, and I'm not sure that it was her fault, because Michelle Obama had a lot of people working with her on this. Like, it wasn't just like Michelle Obama sat in the White House and was like, "I'm going to attack school lunches today."
I think a lot of the
reason ketchup is a fruit.
Sure. I think a lot of the reason that we found so much pushback against that is because pretty much the only thing a lot of us ever learned about nutrition was this picture of the food pyramid.
Right, so she tore it apart and threw it on a plate.
Which is really not enough to know about nutrition at all. But again, for a lot of the reasons we just discussed, most people don't have a very good or thorough introduction to nutrition or food or healthy eating or healthy living.
Sure.
So you mess with that one thing that everybody knew and loved, And
from like one of the
suddenly-
most obese countries in the world.
Right. It's
They're like, give me my.
maybe something isn't working with this pyramid
Yeah.
when America is facing an
So,
obesity epidemic.
but yeah, but like Michelle really pushed for that. Like she started the garden. Like, I mean, at the White House, like she was a big supporter of like they grew a lot of food, like their fruit and veggies. They're on.
It's kind of like a presidential community garden type.
But
thing.
like she made a point to eat it as well. Like it was serving them in the office, you know what I mean? Like in the kitchen, all that stuff. So it wasn't just like for show necessarily. I mean, she was trying to encourage people to make smart choices, but she was also kind of like doing the walk and the dance and the talk and all of it at the same time.
The jig,
I don't think Michelle
The
Obama
tango?
jigs, but
the cha-cha-cha.
so her task force, this Let's Move, had 5 pillars. 1 was to create a healthy start for children. 2 was to empower the parents and caregivers. 3 was to provide healthy foods in schools. 4 was to improve access to healthy, affordable foods. And 5 was to increase physical activity. So it's a well-rounded attempt, but it didn't really go that well. And most of the reason is because of the lunch changes. And this is what you hear about the most. My kids today will still be like, I don't like what's for lunch. Thanks, Obama. Like, it's a thing. It like teenagers really believe this. They have been taught this somewhere at home. Someone was mad about lunch.
If it's not yellow or brown, a teenager probably doesn't want to eat it.
Insane. But also, like, someone at home was just like, well, you don't, like lunches because Michelle Obama did it, and now they just don't like lunches or Michelle Obama. So
Thanks, Obama.
thanks, Obama. So their standards were trying to be practical, and so they wanted to set them that they could encourage at home as well. So they wanted to offer fruits and vegetables every day of the week. They wanted to increase offerings of whole grain rich foods. She wanted to offer only fat-free or low-fat milk varieties.
No, see, I have a problem with that one. I'm a 2%er right there when it comes to the milk.
Oh, I could do either of those.
Ugh. Fat-free,
Really?
fat-free milk tastes like milk-flavored water.
Little baby Chelsea couldn't like really.
2% all the way.
Oh, I'll drink any milk. Okay.
Well, remember how much I disliked physical education because I was a puny little kid, so I had
wasn't
to put
drinking
some
milk in gym class.
No, I'm just saying I had to drink 2% to put some meat on my bones.
I think when I was growing up, oh, Mom, I wish you could attest to this, but I think it was skim milk at first, and then I think we switched to 2%.
Oof, that's a big
But
change.
I'll drink any milk. I love milk. You know that.
2% compared to skim is just like
I
nectar
honestly-
from heaven.
If you put them both in front of me, I probably can tell you which is which.
Oh, you could. I guarantee you
I don't
could.
think so.
It's the difference between Busch Light and Coors Khaki.
Oh, shut up. Neither of those are good for your bones, though.
I'm not saying either of those are good for your bones. I'm just saying flavor profile wise.
Okay, anyways, they wanted to limit calories based on the age of children being served to ensure portion size, and she wanted to increase the focus on reducing the amounts of saturated fat, trans fats, and sodium.
All the things in my diet.
I mean, they're the things that taste good,
They sure are.
right? So I understand.
Give me
but
them cheesy poofs.
also, like when I think about some of the things that my school lunch like called lunch, there were days that we just had like
Browns and yellows.
2 big cheese sticks.
Yep, brown.
Well, no, I know, but
Yellow
I'm just
on the
saying, like, I
inside.
try to think about some of the things that we ate when I was in school, and I'm like, this checks out.
The square, I guess rectangular pizza.
I would do anything for one of those, like, Mexican boat pizzas. Do you remember those?
Oh,
They
those
were
are
like,
great, yeah.
They had, like, sausage on them. Oh, I loved those things.
So there's like a lot of pizza, a lot of fried
Hot
stuff,
dogs,
French fries, hot dogs,
potatoes of all sorts.
potatoes in
We used
every
to eat
format.
the wedges that were the smiley faces.
Yeah.
Did you have those?
Yeah, tater
I love
tots,
those.
potatoes in
tots.
every single format, basically. I don't honestly remember eating a single vegetable in elementary school. My mom packed me lunch though, so I'm only mainly talking about what my peers were eating. So my mom would pack me.
I mean, if my parents were packing, I was eating bologna and butter sandwiches.
Okay.
So
not the
but
healthiest option.
I don't know. I really wish I would have asked my parents more about this. I feel like I was about 50-50.
I remember my mom putting like, fruit cups and an attempt at vegetables and all kinds of.
I think it was like Wednesday. There was like a day of the week that was always cook's choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a recipe for a disaster.
That's browns and yellows.
It's just the leftovers of whatever didn't work out whatever. Anyways, okay.
Ugh.
The new standards were expected to cost $3.2 billion over the first 5 years of their implementation, and they were just one of the 5 major components of a healthy hunger-free of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, now implemented or under development.
Healthy hunger hippos.
Hungry kitty hippos.
Hunger-free kid hippos.
It's just all their mouths coming out.
Healthy hungry hippos.
And you're just, okay. Anyways.
Kitty
it's
hippos.
Really expensive. Okay.
In addition to the updated meal standards that everyone knows and talks about still, improvements included the ability to take nutrition standards beyond the lunch line for the first time ever. So this is another thing that I remember.
And this is something that's still true. Like,
right.
Basically what she was setting up was not just the actual lunch in the lunchroom, but it was all the other things they had access to. So they like sold things in vending machines that were like you can't buy, like we're a Pepsi school because like every school is branded by either Coke or Pepsi, and you can only sell one of those two in your schools. So we're a Pepsi school, so it's all Diet Pepsi, Diet Mountain Dew. Yeah, like, but you can't buy Mountain Dew, you can't buy Pepsi, like
or a Coca-Cola family.
Well,
but yes, I remember them turning off the vending machines during the day.
Yeah, like ours are on a timer still.
Right.
But that was like part of the thing. So they got rid of like high sugar, high carb.
We were just
like,
absolutely
drinks.
Baffled when these standards came along.
Yeah.
Because we could no longer buy a pop in the middle of the day.
A cold pop. The other thing that it tried to do, or it did do, I should say, is it did increase funding for schools. And it gave an additional 6 cents a meal. And that was the first real increase in 30 years. And so they hoped that that would help support the costs now of supplementing with higher caliber foods.
Yeah, real fruits and vegetables are expensive. And
it's really expensive to eat healthy.
And food deserts are a big problem in much of America. It's difficult to come by fresh, healthy foods.
It is. And they're expensive when you do get to them. It also used a common sense pricing standard for schools to ensure that revenue from non-federal sources keep pace with the federal commitment to healthy school meals and properly align with the cost. So basically that they weren't able to just charge way over what was fair or reasonable for families, especially when you think about families with multiple kids and things like that. So they had to keep it within a certain rate so that families, could still afford to feed their kid at school if they weren't packing a lunch.
Right.
And then they also offered training and technical assistance to help schools achieve and monitor this compliance. So they would offer their, help in making sure that they were not only following the rules, but also offering a healthy opportunity for students. Where sometimes, a lot of my students, maybe the most balanced meal of their day could come from school. So as I mentioned before, the NFL had introduced what's called Play 60, and it came from actually 2007.
So it's kind of contemporaneous to the Let's Move program.
Yeah, it is. And it's an attempt for the NFL to make really good connections with communities, which is really important for them, obviously, because the NFL has made some missteps. I don't want to get into the politics of them, but they haven't historically made the best decisions. So Play 60 was a way for them to empower the next generation of youth to be the most physically active and healthy. And so their campaign was to encourage kids to get physically active for 60 minutes a day. And since Play 60 launched in 2007, they've reported that they have committed more than $352 million to youth health and fitness through Play 60 programming, grants, and media time for PSAs, public service announcements.
I remember seeing commercials for this, I think, on TV that I was watching at the time. When I was
They're still on
high
today.
School.
It's still an active part of them. Like whenever they do the Pro Bowl or the Super Bowl, you'll always see like a Play 60 ad, and they'll have kids down on the field, and like the Pro Bowlers will go out and play and stuff like that.
So what does this program entail? What all?
Well, they partnered with a ton of academic, scientific, and nonprofit organizations. So they would work with like the American Heart Association, the National Dairy Council, the Special Olympics, the Shriners, St. Jude, United Way. I mean, they've really reached out here to try to help children of all abilities, which I think is really great, to have healthier, active lives. So in this time since 2007, they've supported programs in over 73,000 schools. They have constructed more than 265 youth fitness zones nationwide, and they've given more than 38 million children an opportunity to boost their activity levels just by supporting this, basically. And so the research suggests they had the Cooper Institute, through its NFL Play 60 Fitness Gram project, revealed the annual improvements in aerobic capacity and BMI, their body mass index, for students participating in this program when compared to schools not utilizing it. So there was actual data suggesting that the schools that were benefiting from the NFL Play 60 were actually performing at a higher rate, and they had healthier students in their schools.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really great of them to try to reach out and use this money for some good. But you also see it happen. I mean, I this one stuck out to me, but you do see the NBA and the MLB also reaching out to do this kind of activity. But I mean, this is like concrete. Like we're talking 13 years of this. Like the NFL has invested in this program to try to help these communities, especially to support this important thing for them. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
See, it's still active.
Progress is sort of happening slowly but surely, I guess we'll say. Especially at the national level. It's difficult to find loud voices to be leaders in this area, especially with a nation that is very satisfied to have everything we want kind of at our fingertips at all times, even if what we want is unhealthy for us. I mean, I'm sure I struggle with, physical fitness even today because I have a computer-based job, so I sit at a desk all day typing, and, you and I have talked about our desire to become sort of more physically active. We want to take the dog on walks.
Sure.
Got a rowing machine that we don't use a whole lot yet, but we want to, these kinds of things. We just want to become more fit and more active. And I think that maybe if we had had some of these habits instilled in us a little earlier, we might be more committed to ongoing exercise.
I mean, I'm not here to say that a school lunch is going to help you lose weight, right? Like it's not. We can't perfect a school lunch. Like we still have to offer things that young kids who are more picky, I would say sometimes, than my kids, teenagers. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be beautiful. They're not going to get it right. But I think that Let's Move with the Obama administration was a really great attempt to at least try to bring it to the forefront. Like it's a hard thing to fix. And like school lunches, like it's a program, it's a business. Like we're talking about something that has to change at every level, basically, and it's not easy.
Right.
And I can't imagine being a school cafeteria like cook or anything like that. Like to see what they're able to plan and do and like all that kind of stuff. Like it's not easy.
I mean, especially we look at these Obama era initiatives as being good things, but like we were saying, it's hard for me to imagine having to be on the implementation side of some of these things because they're not easy. I mean, even our own experience. So our experience in school, public school was before all of these initiatives took shape. We were talking about our school lunches a little bit earlier, but I mean, what were your gym classes and recesses? What did those look like?
It was the best time of my life.
Okay.
I was a standout.
You were very happy.
I was the queen of tetherball.
Oh, I was the queen of tetherball.
I was the reigning queen.
Well, we should have had
one day and was like, "You want to play it out?"
We really should have had a school versus school tetherball championship league,
like county versus county
in third grade.
My parents have a really great story that I like. I think I was in maybe first grade, and I came home and I was like a mess. Like I was a sweaty mess. Like I had just been running. They said for the hills it looked like. And I got home and my mom was like, "How was your day?" And all I could scream was that like I had beat like a third or fourth grader in tetherball, and it was all of it. I mean, it was everything to me.
Contrast that with I think it was my first day of school in either kindergarten or first grade. I was wearing this cute little like denim and sunflower pattern thing that my mom had dressed me up in, and I tripped over one of these beams on the playground.
Did you have a hat on? Was there like a...
There might have been a hat. I don't know.
It sounds like a hat kind of
hats were against the dress code though, I think. But regardless, I just tripped and fell face first into a giant pile of mud. And I had to go home.
And that's the start of the...
That's the start of my true feelings about physical activity.
Well, some of us had a good time. No, I think maybe I have like a really romantic version of like what my elementary school was like. And maybe that's just like the kid who loves school. And me, like I loved school. I loved gym. I loved recess. I, for the most part, had really, really great teachers. I just have like such fond memories. But in elementary school, it was kindergarten through fourth. We had one gym teacher for all of us.
Same here.
Mass chaos. She was incredible. She taught us like, I remember really specifically learning to play badminton, which I was like, are third graders learning to play
That takes
badminton?
a lot of coordination.
Yeah, and like we played volleyball. Like we did like real sports stuff with her. I mean, I also got probably most of my fingers broken in half by a scooter at some point.
Oh. Yeah, we had the scooters. We did a lot of fitness test type stuff.
Really?
Did you do that?
We did some.
We did-
Not like too serious.
Yeah, we
but,
did.
Like,
We did like time.
Yeah, we would do like
races.
runs and things like that.
I remember doing the rope climb was a big deal. People were racing up to the top of the rope
we didn't
climb.
have a rope that I remember, unless there was one outside.
I mean, parachute day is
we had
still
like
the best
a pull-up
though.
bar.
Yeah, we had that too.
Yeah, we had a parachute. That was the best day.
Parachute day is the best day.
Oh, I loved sitting under that thing. It was so much fun.
Other than the sort of fitness test things, there weren't a lot of super competitive parts of gym class. At recess, we definitely got very competitive.
Really?
Tetherball and foursquare and
Yeah.
kickball, but I think our gym class was less focused on competitive sports and more just on being physically active in a variety of ways.
No, I agree with that.
I could be misremembering that because that's quite a long time ago, but...
I mostly remember badminton because I was like, what is this thing?
What is this birdie? Yeah, I remember more of the competitive nature of physical activity kicking in around the middle school years. I don't know if that rang true for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, recess in the elementary school was very, like, we had so much stuff to do. It was so great. So I don't remember it being too competitive out there. But middle school definitely kicked up. Like, we had two teachers. We had, like, a male and a female teacher both.
Same.
And that was the first time that you, like, went in a locker room and changed and, like, did that whole...
That whole thing that makes you miserable when you're a middle school girl.
I think I was just so used to it because I played volleyball, I played softball, I played basketball.
Yeah, I played volleyball in middle school. I never played softball for the school, but I played it every year until I graduated. But
Middle school, I love gym class. We played a lot of four corners, which was like kickball, but you could attack people and like throw things. Very exciting.
You were an aggressive
played football in middle school. We like learned football. Like we actually understood how like the slots worked and like defense and like it was a whole experience. We did like super intense flag football in middle school.
I skipped that chapter.
Makes my
Dodgeball days were the
best
best.
teacher.
Dodgeball days were the best middle school.
Oh, I mean,
experiences
obviously.
for me.
But we had a great time.
High school, I skipped out on the experience altogether.
High school was the best part.
I just took independent study gym class.
Such a lame kid.
I got my hours in by not interacting with my peers at all because I didn't have time in my schedule. I took a lot of arts classes.
Busy.
Arts classes and foreign language classes made it difficult for me to do the traditional gym class route in high school.
My high school, we had 2 gym teachers again, but we also had like a lifting. So you could do like lifting in high school. You could do regular PE. And then there was also a class called team sports, which was basically just a bunch of varsity athletes playing like super competitive games. And it was very dangerous, but so much fun. I love those classes. But I took like lifting and stuff and I like that. I mean, we did a lot of that kind of training anyways. So it was kind of expected as an athlete that we were, active in a class like that. But I still took it. I mean, I did like the workouts of those things. They helped.
Yeah.
Especially with all my knee surgeries and stuff. Like I was doing physical therapy during school because but like the football coach was our teacher for the period and he helped me do it. So it was really great for me because I had someone to, help me.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
To be fair, I also appreciated that my high school allowed me to be flexible with my gym credits.
No, that is nice. I agree. We do have some kids do that still. It's not that uncommon.
I really wasn't. I stopped playing school sports after my freshman year in high school. I didn't like how it felt. For me, it felt too competitive and too socially kind of crushing. Because if you weren't kind of at the top of the heap of athletes in my school anyway, there were sort of social stigmata attached to that. And I don't begrudge the people who could do well with that stuff having a good time doing it, but for me it was a very strange kind of environment. And also I didn't want to take a shower in the middle of the school day, and I didn't want to smell bad in the middle of the school day.
We didn't shower in the middle of the school day.
Well, I'm just saying that you probably smell bad.
Our kids don't. Like, so do they. Maybe some of the boys do, but most of the girls don't. Even after like mild days and stuff, they don't shower in the middle of the day.
I just didn't like feeling sweaty and gross in the middle of the day, that concept. So I'm sure I missed out on a lot of things, honestly, that would have come from participating in, more sort of social, physical activity in high school. But I personally appreciated the flexibility.
Yeah, I've always liked gym class though. I've always liked sports. I've always just naturally wanted to compete. Yeah. Like, just kind of part of...
I mean, I loved softball. That was my life, but I just didn't play it as a school sport. I played summer league stuff.
But I just mean, like, I guess that transferred really easily to my classes because it was like dodgeball all in, kickball all in, foursquare, like shoe shiners, like the whole thing. I just wanted it all.
Sure. So before we get to what we learned this week, we're going to try a little bit of a new thing here We're calling this segment Fill in the Blank. What is
I thought
this?
you forgot to write what it was called.
Fill in the blank. This is a new thing we're going to try because we want to hear from some of you, from our listeners. So each week, or as long as we feel like you like this, or as long as we like it, we're going to try to ask a trivia question for this segment. The first person who writes in with the correct answer is going to get a 16-to-1 sticker in the mail. So if you write in and answer the question, just include your mailing address and we'll send you a sticker from the show.
I mean, what a collector's item.
This is a limited edition run of 16-to-1 stickers.
This is fueled by our love of all things Jeopardy.
It is.
And
we're
quiz
big
related.
trivia. Yeah, we're big trivia buffs.
So this is our first one.
What is our first question?
Our first question is this. In what year and country was the YMCA founded?
One more time.
In what year and country was the YMCA founded?
Yeah, this one surprised me.
You got it wrong.
Oh, I got it really wrong.
You were not even remotely close.
I mean, to be fair, it's not intuitive. So anyway, listeners, if you are the first person to write in, you can write in and reach us at hello@16to1.com. That's all spelled out. All of the numbers are spelled out. hello@16to1.com. If you're the first person to write in with the correct answer, just let us know your mailing address and we will send you a 16-to-1 show sticker. We're working on some other prizes, but that's what we got for now. We're just starting up. So write in, let us hear from you. That's the first trivia question that we've got for you.
Good luck.
Okay, so let's move on. What did we learn this week?
You go first.
This is the one that you really like. I think I learned how to floss.
Only like 6 months late.
Not my teeth, mind you. I learned to do the dance move known as the floss. I mean, I've seen people do it before, but I'd never attempted to do it myself. And you helped me by helping you assisted me in.
I kind of had it.
Well, you assisted me in helping me understand that I have to move my hips too, not just my arms.
Yes.
I wasn't moving my hips, listeners. I was waving my arms around frantically and not moving my hips. So
that's how you dance. So
that's it.
Okay.
Floss.
Most importantly, well, one, oh my gosh, I didn't write this down, but today I found out one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite books, Lori Halls Anderson, who wrote Speak. She was doing a giveaway this past weekend on Twitter. It was just like, I have these copies. DM me your name, your school address, whatever. So I did it. I just did it for probably 5 or 6 of them because you could keep re-entering if you didn't get one. Never heard from her. Today, I've got a DM from Lori Halls Anderson, and I'm getting one of her books that she's shipping right to my face. I am so excited. Not something I learned. Shameless plug for LHA, Speak, all of her great
You learned how
pieces.
to win things from your hero on Twitter.
I learned perseverance paid off. Okay.
There you go.
Most importantly, and this is going to be happening when this episode comes out, the cherry blossoms in DC, one of the most beautiful things in the world that I've never seen, are going to be in peak bloom. They're slated to maybe be in full bloom between March 27th and March 31st, which is a real day. At the time that this podcast drops, it'll be peak bloom, hopefully. It's not an exact science, you know? There's just like websites that are like Cherry Blossom Watch, and they just like post and are like, it's coming, and they can just kind of give you like a rough so many days.
CherryBlossomAgain.com.
Yeah, it's like, essentially, I'm just like trusting these people who are looking at them to be like, yes, this bloom is 2 weeks away, and I'll just show up.
All right.
Can I stand on one soapbox really quickly?
Yes.
This was shared on Facebook. Not related to this episode, but just a friend of mine who shared this, and it's about gym class. And a lot of teachers believe or use as a practice that taking away this opportunity because of how a student is acting is good for them. Removing the child from a physical activity like gym or PE or something is not a corrective course of action. So we as teachers need to be better about being sure that what we are doing and how we are treating kids is productive not only for us, but for them most importantly. So while it might be easier to dangle the little golden carrot out in front of them that they can't do this or that because of how they're acting, gym class, if they're active participants in it, will help you in the long run. So it's not really one of those things that should be a chip to kind of play with, if that makes sense. Like, we should treat it like lunch. We should treat it like other expected classes, especially at such a young age, because it's so important for their development. And I can't say certainly. This came from a early ed, teacher. So I trust, and she's an incredible teacher. So I trust this, belief of hers and her sharing this article. But for teachers who are trying to figure it out, to learn their class management style, to do these types of things, let's try to keep the student in the forefront of our decision process making stuff and us further back so that we can make sure that what we're doing for them is best for them first and then best for us also as a secondary. Steps down from soapbox.
Excellent.
Drinks my Coors Light. Peace out. Goodbye, listeners.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hey listeners, thanks for supporting 16 to 1.
We're trying to grow our audience, so please check us out at 16to1.com, all spelled out, and tell your friends about the show.
On our website, you can find links to follow us on social media, an archive of all our old episodes, and a contact form where you can get in touch.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next show.